What's up, you guys? Teddy Striker here, and Israel, the last stylebender, Adesanya, is back this Saturday to take on Nassourdine Imavov at UFC Saudi Arabia. And because Israel Adesanya is such a legend in MMA, he's got nearly 10 title fight wins. He's beaten several former champions, and he is one of the most skilled fighters in the world. And even in his weight class, and for a long time, there's no one that could touch him. But recently, he has lost, but although he's lost, it's been title fights. It's not to anybody. He's losing to the best in the world. And a lot of people seem to think that he is going to go out there and he's going to school Nassourdine Imavov, and that is completely fair. But in this video, I want to talk about how I think the underdog, Nassourdine Imavov, can beat such a legend and favorite in Israel Adesanya. I'm not saying that he is going to win. I'm just simply building a game plan for him to beat Israel Adesanya. But if you're interested in my prediction for the main event, Israel Adesanya versus Nassourdine Imavov, tune in this Friday. That's when I'm going to be releasing it. And tune in throughout the week because I'm going to be dropping my prediction for the rest of the fights on that amazing card. But with that being said, let's get into the first key to victory I have for Nassourdine Imavov to beat Israel Adesanya, and that's going to be one thing that we've seen in Israel Adesanya's losses is that he wasn't really able to find his jab against Sean Strickland in round 4, or after round 4. He actually said this.
I'm bleeding. I can't find my jab, but also he's just leaning out the way. Yeah.
And Strickland was able to do this just by defending the jab, slipping the jab, maybe just countering the jab. And what this achieved for Sean Strickland was it rendered Israel Adesanya's combos completely ineffective, because if you can't land with your jab, you can't land with some bigger power shots. And he was missing quite a bit in that fight. He had a very low accuracy, and that was partly because Sean Strickland was able to take away his jab by, like I said, defending it, slipping it, or countering it. And I think if Imavov wants to win this fight, he is going to have to do that. Moving on to the next key to victory I have for Imavov, and that's going to be Israel Adesanya loves to set up his offense with his feints. He makes sure he knocks on the door before he attacks you and before he comes in. And that helps him a lot, stay safe and usually just control the fight. We've seen him do this against Jerry Cannonier, where he would just throw some feints and then throw a strike when he made sure that there was a clear opening that he could take advantage of. But something that Dricus Du Plessis did was whenever Adesanya would try to do that, he would make sure to interrupt him and throw off his timing so that Israel Adesanya wasn't able to land some strikes on him. And some of his other opponents that beat him have done that too. So I think this tactic would be very beneficial to Nassourdine Imavov. But moving on to the next key to victory I have for him, and that's going to be firstly, Nassourdine Imavov has a very fast jab. He's got quick hands, and he's going to need to establish it early in this fight in order to sort of control the range and set up some of his offense. But also, Israel Adesanya, his main defense for jabs is his head movement. He doesn't really try to block it or parry it. He just mainly uses his head movement, and I think that's good that you have that in your game. But it would be even better if you were able to just parry it sometimes. Maybe just step back. You don't always have to stay in range and slip it, because there could be something big coming behind it. So I think that Imavov would benefit greatly from establishing his jab. And we've seen Sean Strickland have a lot of success with his jab, Jan Blachowicz too, Alex Pereira, Robert Whittaker in a rematch. So I think, again, to win this fight, he is going to need to establish his strong jab. Moving on to the next key to victory I have for Imavov, that's going to be Nassourdine Imavov actually has some pretty good grappling, and I think he should mix it up in this fight. Adesanya, he is a high-level striker. Imavov likes to strike too, but take advantage where you have a strength in this fight, and that is on the ground. And one way that has consistently worked against Adesanya, because his takedown defense has improved a lot, is whenever you're intercepting Israel Adesanya, throwing a strike, and you use that momentum of him crashing into you to run into him for a takedown. And we've seen in Israel Adesanya's last fight that with the heavy grappling of Duplessis and the pace of the fight, he was starting to slow down a bit. And I feel like whenever Adesanya gets taken down, he gets very urgent to get back to his feet. It almost looks like he's like maybe panicking a bit because he just rushes to get back to his feet. And when he's doing that, he kind of gives his back. He gets on all fours and gets up and he gives his back to his opponent. And that's actually how Strikers Duplessis finished him. So there could be a submission there for you, or you could just get Israel Adesanya tired because he's going to be trying to urgently get back up to his feet. But moving on to the next heat victory I have for Imavov, and that's going to be as we all know, Israel Adesanya loves to throw his feints. He loves to get a reaction out of you so that he can, exploit a certain recurring pattern or like an opening in your game. So to shut that down, what Jan Blachowicz did or what Sean Strickland did was to make sure to stay defensively responsible and mix up your reactions to whatever he's throwing out there and staying just safe at all times. This is a great way to shut down the offense of such a diverse and dynamic striker like Israel Adesanya, just leaving him confused and have him, struggle to find his target. But moving on to the last heat to victory I have for Imavov, and that's going to be now, one thing about Israel Adesanya is in his Whitaker fight, the second time, I felt like he lost that fight. I thought he lost that fight 3-2 for Whitaker. But the problem is, it's not always about what actually happens in the cage. It's just about what the fight looks like. And unfortunately for Robert Whitaker, I felt like he just lacked activity. He wasn't really throwing that much shots. And he wasn't controlling the center of the cage. I feel like you gotta either have one or the other for the judges. You gotta either be controlling the octagon or you gotta have the activity on your side. And I felt like Whitaker didn't have either. So one time he literally had Adesanya up against the fence, but for some reason he just disengaged. He didn't choose to throw up or open up with his combinations when he had the taller fighter backed up against the fence where Whitaker had the advantageous position. But to show that activity matters, I want to show you guys two clips from the Sean Strickland fight. Firstly, let's look at this one. In this exchange, looking at it real time, it just looks like Sean Strickland gets the better of Israel Adesanya, but it was actually an exchange where both guys only landed one punch. So let's take a look at this exchange a bit slower. So firstly, Sean Strickland starts with a jab. Izzy counters with a right hand. Sean misses the body shot, and then Adesanya misses the left hook, and Strickland finishes off with a left hook of his own. So both guys only landed one punch in that exchange, but because Sean Strickland threw one more punch, he was able, it looked like he just won the exchange, and also he was the one that landed the last punch, or he threw the last punch. And that can be the difference in a close round where you see an exchange like that. Maybe only one punch lands on each side, but whoever lands last typically has, the higher chance of getting the round. Maybe because, that's the last thing we see, and that's the last thing we remember. We just see them both throwing, but whoever lands last and who throws last often looks like they won the exchange. But let's look at another example. Look at this one, and who do you think won this exchange? To slow it down further, they both started the exchange with sort of a grazing jab. As you can see right about here, Adesanya switches, both land a grazing jab, but then they both miss their next punches, but Strickland has the last punch that actually lands, which is a left hook, and he won that exchange just based on throwing more punches than Israel Adesanya. And Nassourdine Imavov, sometimes he has this tendency to kind of admire his work and take pictures of what he does, and he can't do that against Adesanya because you can end up losing the fight, just like Robert Whitaker did, if you don't have enough activity, if you're not the person that's throwing the last punches or landing the last punch, and if you don't have more punches than your opponent in that exchange. And a bonus, tip for Imavov is to counter Adesanya's right hand, because sometimes Israel Adesanya, he throws big on that right. He commits heavily on that right hand and he leaves himself out of position. So Imavov could potentially counter him with some, punch. I'm not sure what he could throw, maybe like a head kick or just a left hook or something like that. But yeah, that's all I've got for this video. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Let me know what you guys think about this fight. Thank you guys for watching and God bless.